more technical parts of our PhD program, the timeline, requirements that we have. And I will start with the slide that I showed you yesterday that summarizes the philosophy and priorities of our graduate program. And I told you yesterday that we're really trying to give you everything that you need for a successful career, and not only the stuff that you need to maneuver the graduate program, or only to get you your PhD degree in your hand. And yesterday we mostly or most of the sessions focused basically on these 3 points here, right? We showed you our cutting-edge research facilities. You had the opportunity to talk to our excellent faculty, and so you learned about all the research that is going on in our department. And today I'm going to focus on more the coursework and our mentoring. So basically how we make sure that you have a very well-defined and smooth way through the 5 years of graduate school if you decide to come here. Let me start with the big picture. So in year one, ideally, you manage in year one to complete your coursework. You will identify a research group where you want to do your PhD research for the coming years. And you will start working on your research, actually. So you should, by the end of year one, actually have already maybe some results, a good idea of what you're going to do for the next 4 years. Kind of this is the goal. In year two, you of course continue working on your research. Actually, you will continue working on your research all the time, but you will also form a PhD committee. This committee will basically advise you along the way. Is there someone unmuted? Yeah, advise you along the way, all the way to your defense, and you will also start writing your dissertation proposal and complete the oral PhD candidacy examination. So these are the main 2 points that you need to complete to advance to PhD candidacy. And you really, so most of our students manage to do this after before their fourth semester ends. And then after you enter candidacy, you really focus on your research all the way to the point where you are ready to defend your PhD thesis. And 6 months before your final defense, you will have a preliminary oral examination. And this is really to make sure that you have all the data that you need, that you have all your ducks in a row to successfully defend your thesis 6 months later. The most important part of this slide, I would say, is that it's really, there are very, very few points, right? So our program is really intentionally structured with a minimal number of formal guidelines and requirements, because we really want to give you the flexibility to adjust the program and what you're doing in the program to your interests and also to your background. So there's a lot of room actually for mentorship, individual mentorship that usually comes from your advisor or your PhD committee. So you faculty and students really have the freedom and latitude to develop training and development plans that are tailored to their individual needs and aspirations. So this is really, again, going back to our philosophy, this is what we are trying to do in our graduate program. I'll go a little bit into the details now. We had the big picture, now the more detailed view. Our course requirement varies slightly depending on the area of concentration. So if you are in the biochemistry division, you will take more biochemistry courses. In a way, this makes, of course, much sense. This is why we do this. If you are really interested in all the requirements and read all the requirements. They are on our webpage. Under the graduate tab, you find a summary of degree requirements. There's a PDF. This will tell you all the little details, but I will just go over the more general things. So you will have 6 classes that you will take. That gives you 18 credits hours at a 600 level, and you should keep a GPA minimum of 3.0 in these classes. At least 3 of them will be in your area of concentration. Again, you will, if you do physical chemistry, you will take 3 physical chemistry courses, but this also means that the other 3 are basically free for you to choose after discussion with your research advisor, right? Depending on what kind of project you're working on, you can choose these other 3 classes from across the department. Yesterday in my presentation, I really stressed the point that our research is very interdisciplinary and also interdisciplinary across campus. And this also means that we really encourage students to take courses outside of our department. So if you're doing something more in direction of material chemistry, it's absolutely fine and encouraged to take classes in material science or in Chem-Eng or across campus. You usually need approval by your research advisor and by me, but this is just a formality. I mean, you usually get this actually. Maybe I would say no if someone wants to do a music course or something. I don't know. Never happened before. You have to have a grade better than C-, otherwise it doesn't count and you will have to take it again. And I mentioned this, the minimum average GPA should be 3.0 to remain in good standing. And I will talk about what good standing mean on a slide later on. So what kind of courses will you take? 6 courses, and ideally you should do this in the first year to free up the second year to focus on your on preparing your proposal for your PhD candidacy. These courses will be in the first 2, sometimes 3 semesters. In addition to this regular coursework, we have a new student seminar. I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail. This is really geared towards helping you to find a research group, helping you with a decision where you want to do your research. We have regular research seminars in the different areas of concentration. So we have seminars in biochemistry, in PChem, in organic chemistry. They are weekly or bi-weekly. These are usually external speakers that visit here. This also means that we take them for lunch and dinner. So very often graduate students would actually take speakers to lunch. Hopefully now that people can visit in person again, this will actually happen more often. Of course, in the last 2 years, this was kind of mostly Zoom seminars. We also have colloquia, several of them per semester. And this is really the whole department. This is in our major lecture hall in Brown Lab. And these are really highly visible people, highly visible scientists that present research that is of interest to a broad range of us. So this is really for the whole department. This is, so let me change gears a little bit and talk about teaching and research assistantship, basically the way for you to get a stipend. So most of you will start as teaching assistants. This is also what is in your funding letter, right? So you will spend usually your first year as a teaching assistant. You will either lead labs or discussion sections or recitation sections. But we really try very hard to get all of our students on research assistantship as soon as possible. So basically after the first year, if necessary, after the second year. So research assistantship basically means that you get funding for your research, and you can spend all your time on working towards your PhD thesis, right? Of course, this depends on your advisor's funding, but in general, actually, we managed to get people pretty early in a research assistantship. Funding, you all know that the funding for the 22-23 is $30,000 per year for students in good standing. Again, I will explain what good standing means later on the next slide, actually. One important thing is our stipend goes up in average by $500 per year. And I'm pretty sure that this will continue to happen. This raise applies to all students in residence, so not only to the new students coming into the program. So this means that you will actually very likely get a higher stipend from year to year. This is not the case actually in all programs, right? This is here at Delaware. And also our stipend is uniform across both TA and RA. So some other programs would pay TAs less than RAs. In our program, you get the same stipend. And this also means that there's no risk for you if for some reason there's no funding from your research advisor and you have to go back on a TA position for a semester, you will not get less money actually. We guarantee funding to all students who are in good standing for at least 5 years. And the focus here is really at least and not 5 years. So there are students who take longer and they are usually funded. It's extremely rare that we have unfunded students. So basically we guarantee you that you get 5 years, and we guarantee you that you get at least this stipend here, but it's very likely to go up. And it's very likely that if for some reason you need more time, you will be funded longer than 5 years. Right, funding and good standing. This looks like a long list of requirements to stay in good standing to get funding. However, usually this is not an issue at all. Most of our students actually, or all of them actually, are in good standing, and this is a very, very rare exception that people are not in good standing, but I go over this anyways. So you have to be full-time and make progress towards your PhD degree, of course. You have to be in an approved research group after your first semester. There's an exception for some programs like CBI. They have lab rotations, and these students are allowed to take longer for deciding which research group to join. International students have to meet the international TA requirements. This is something that we can discuss later in the question and answer section. You need to have a 3.0 GPA. You have to advance to PhD candidacy by the end of the 4th semester here in residence. This is a requirement. You have to have adequate TA evaluations if you're a TA, of course, and you should be otherwise in good standing. But this last point is probably the important point. We really admit you because we are confident you will succeed. So this is usually not a big hurdle for anyone in our program. Finding a research group is probably one of the most critical tasks during your first semester, right? Getting your PhD is really about performing research and develop as a scholar. And so this means that you will spend a lot of time in the lab. And this is not going to work if you don't like or if you don't actually love what you're doing in the lab, right? And also, if you want to develop as a scholar, right, the mentor-mentee relationship is important. So there's also a personal part to this finding the right research group, right? And so we help you with doing this in many ways. Some some things that we are doing is, I mentioned this new student seminar. So in the first semester, you will have at least, I don't know, 20, 25 seminars where research groups present their research, and they also present the research opportunities in their groups. You will be required to actually attend all of them. Even biochemists have to attend the PChem new student seminars. This is also a good way to get an idea what is going on in the department in terms of research, right? We encourage you to attend group meetings of as many groups as you can think of, as many groups as you can possibly be interested in. And you will have one-on-one meetings with potential advisors. We require at least 3, but we absolutely encourage you to have more, as many as makes sense. Because the more people you talk to, the better your decision will be actually in deciding what research group you're joining. And after this first semester, or during the first semester, you will submit a form with the preferences for your research advisor, ranked. So basically 3 names ranked after in order. And we will take these preferences of you, sit together, put everything together, and then we will make the group assignments. And we really try everything to place you in your first choice group. And this usually also happens. I mean, there are maybe a couple of students who will have to accept a second choice. Already for the third choice, we don't do this assignment easily. We will discuss this with you. We will discuss this with the advisor. We will try to find alternatives. This will be, so we will definitely not just put you in a group that you don't like. This is not going to happen. Again, I would say 90% of the students get their first choice. Sometimes professors get so popular in our department that there is an oversubscription for one, but then we will handle this actually. Okay, finding a research group, PhD committee formation and meetings. This is the next step in your on your way to a PhD. After your first year, you will form your PhD committee. This will be comprised of your PhD advisor, of course. You will have another faculty member from your division or area of concentration. So if you're an inorganic chemist, there will be another inorganic chemist in this committee, a faculty member from the department who is outside your area of concentration, and someone who's outside the department. This can be a professor from another department at UD, a professor at a different university, but it can also be someone from industry or a national lab or something. So this is really very flexible. And this should also really be someone who can help you with your research, who actually has some meaningful input into your research that you're doing. So once you have this committee, you will prepare for the PhD candidacy exam that you have to finish before the start of the 4th semester, ideally. And the committee will also meet for your preliminary oral examination and for your PhD, for the final PhD dissertation defense. However, you can always call the committee for a meeting, so you can have as many meetings as you want. Frankly, this is not really happening very often. Our professors are very approachable, so usually if you want to talk to someone, you don't really need a formal meeting. You just send an email and talk to these people, actually. But you have the right. Becoming a PhD candidate after at the end of the 4th semester, you should have fulfilled all your course requirements. You still should have a GPA of 3.0. And then there are basically 2 parts to the PhD candidacy examination, a written and an oral part. And this is really to determine if you're fit for further PhD study, right? The written dissertation proposal is kind of similar to a short NSF proposal. It's about 10 pages, and you should have 2 to 3 research aims, one of which should be really conceived by you, and that should not come from your research advisor. There should be something that is related to what you're doing, and it might even become something that is in your thesis, but it should be really something that you kind of came up with. It also, depending on the PhD committee and your advisor, it might have appendices with additional data, experimental procedures, things like this. But again, we really focus on helping you with all these steps, right? So you will discuss with your advisor and also with the committee what is required of you. You're not going to sit down and start writing, and at the end of your writing, we tell you that this is not what we want, right? The whole thing has to be submitted 2 weeks prior to the oral candidacy, and you have one opportunity to rewrite the whole thing. So if the committee thinks that it's not appropriate, not sufficient, then you can go back and actually change the whole thing and get it. But again, this is also something that is not very common. Happens from time to time, but usually this is rather smooth sailing. This will be followed by the oral dissertation examination. So you will present in a 45 minutes talk your proposed research, what you actually submitted in your written part. So you will, of course, clearly describe your research aims, the background, significance. You will show that you actually know the literature, and you will also present the first progress towards your research aims, and also steps or next steps towards your PhD research. We will also test you on more general knowledge. So of course we will ask questions regarding your proposal, but we will also ask questions that are a little bit broader, just to make sure that you know that you have a good understanding of the field. We are not going to test you on all of chemistry. So an organic chemist will not be questions about quantum chemistry in general. I might do this actually, Don, if you ever let me on one of your committees. But there are more general questions that are not necessarily focused on the PhD, on your proposal. And again, you have one opportunity to repeat it if, for any reason, the committee should be happy with your oral presentation. Okay. So in summary, I come back to the big picture. You see, it's really not much to do. There are some steps that are required, but we really want to give you all the freedom to do your research, because we believe your research is the most important point in your PhD, right? You want to become a scientist, and the way to do this is actually by doing your own research and getting your own research results, right? So I'm not reading this again. This is why our program is so flexible. If you are looking for more information, I think by now you know where our department website is. There's a graduate tab here that goes right to all these information that I gave you earlier, our degree requirements and other resources. Yesterday, just for those who weren't there yesterday, these are additional resources. Our recruiting website that you definitely want to check out. The Graduate College has a website, so if you're looking for fees or more general graduate program requirements, you will find information here. And again, for international students, there's an international student and scholar service that is really very helpful with this. Is there another? No, that's it. With this, I'm done. And we have a lot of time for questions and answers. So you ask questions, we will answer them. I don't know if there are any in the chat already. You can also actually just unmute and ask them. I will stop sharing my screen if I find the button.